Hi, I'm Anna Denton-Jones, and in today's session I want to talk about a situation where you're inheriting some employees under Tupe, the Transfer of Undertakings Protection of Employment Regulations, and you discover that one of the employees you're about to inherit is perhaps not somebody that you're that keen on inheriting. Now, I'm going to assume that we're not talking about somebody who's committed gross misconduct, or gross negligence, which would obviously give the transferor or employer the ability to terminate their employment summarily. I'm thinking more that this is somebody, maybe they're in a management position, whose performance you are aware may not be up to the standard that you would expect of somebody in that post, and perhaps it doesn't seem that the outgoing employer has done a great deal about it. Now, one of the things that the incoming employer might well feel is, can we impress upon the outgoing employer the desire not to inherit this person? Can we ask them to do something about it? Now, the outgoing employer is unlikely to be willing to, for example, dismiss that person. Any dismissal that's in connection with a transfer, you're probably aware, is automatically unfair dismissal under Regulation 7 of Tupe. And if the only reason that the employer would have to do anything to that person is that you're asking them to, then you can't get much more connected to the Tupe transfer than that. So you'd be into automatically unfair dismissal territory, and the employee would be looking at maximum award of a year's salary. So this is assuming they've got 2 years service, of course. So what can you then do about it? Well, it may be safer for you to actually inherit the person, because the outgoing employer, whilst there is a defence to an automatically unfair dismissal, it's that idea of an economic, technical or organisational reason entailing changes in the workforce. The outgoing employer is unlikely to have that reason to justify any dismissal. Might you have one of those reasons once the employees are with you? So certainly if you're planning some kind of reorganisation of the service or the contract that you've inherited, then it may be that the dismissal can be achieved that way. But let's assume for one moment that you're not going to have any big reorganisation and you're not going to have that easy access to an ETO defence. Potentially at the point that you then dismiss that person, it would still be a dismissal in connection with the Tupe transfer, so still automatically unfair under Regulation 7. If, however, you took the person starting with you day one, as it were, and just applied your normal performance management tools to that person, so obviously making it very clear to them what was expected of them in that role and what they should be doing for you, so they can't be under any illusions about what it is that they need to be doing and achieving, then presumably quite quickly, if there are performance concerns, you would have instances and examples that you could then jump on to start the performance management process. Now, presumably informally to begin with, but potentially you would then end up in territory where you might be looking at formal capability procedures. The advantage, of course, at the time that you are then getting into that territory is that this is now nothing to do with Tupe. This is ordinary unfair dismissal principles. This is an ordinary case of performance management issue, and you may well at that point have the ability to have the protected conversation with the individual and talk about whether or not perhaps they wanted to exit under a settlement agreement, rather than putting themselves through the misery of going through the performance management process. So as the inheriting employer, there's no easy answer. It's not a quick solution. It's not a cheap solution, but it at least avoids you in that automatically unfair dismissal territory. If you do have any questions, please email me, adenton@refreshinglawltd.co.uk.